The Ever After, a wondrous world full of possibilities, and also a world on the brink of being thrown into chaos, all because of the arrival of a few individuals that were never meant to interact with this world. The arrival of Team RWBY, Jean, and Neo are quite literally going to upset the natural balance of this world, and quite possibly change it permanently. And this is because they were created on Remnant. The Ever After was never meant to interact with the people of Remnant in any way, shape, or form. And we've already seen proof of this in episode 1 of RWBY Volume 9. When RWBY started crying, the weather changed along with her mood. Her emotions affected the world itself, causing the weather to change. That is not normal, even for the Ever After, a place based on Wonderland that, is going to have a lot of different possibilities. I highly doubt that every individual in that world has that same capability, that their emotions would affect the weather wherever it is that they're located. When we see a brief glimpse of the landscape of Ever After, at least the area of Ever After that Team RWBY was sent to, the weather is pretty clear. Are you telling me that there's no one in the vicinity, at least in the line of eyesight, as far as the eye can see at that point in time, that is feeling a little upset at the moment? I highly doubt that it is an inherent trait of every individual in that world that if their emotions get out of hand, it starts affecting the world around them. I think this is something that is going to be exclusive to the humans from Remnant, and because of their arrival, the world itself is going to be, very much disrupted. Especially if one of them is prone to anger and rage. Neo, in particular, as well as because of her semblance, is going to heavily disrupt this world. And with Volume 9 being Wonderland-inspired, the Mad Hatter, as she is going to fit the role of, is going to do just that. Turn this world into one of madness. And this is for a very particular reason. The people of Remnant were created by the gods of light and darkness to have the ability to both create and destroy, while also being created with the ability to use magic. Of course, the full effects of it were lost with the first generation of humanity, but a semblance of it remains. The semblances that the characters use now is a remnant of magic in the past. Magic that was likely never gifted to the beings that were created in the Ever After. With the God of Light and God of Darkness being responsible for literally all life on Remnant, the God of Light creating all the plants and animals, and the God of Darkness creating, plague, famine, and ultimately the Grim, they then came together and created the humans, but ultimately, those two gods are responsible for creating all life on that world. So it's quite likely that all life on other worlds was also created by either the God of Darkness or the God of Light, or another member of their race. As I've theorized before, I think the gods themselves are a member of the Asgardian race and kind of created all of the other beings on many different worlds. And with the Ever After, the life that was created there was created under different circumstances than humanity. Humanity was an experiment. Remnant was an experiment. We don't know exactly what the gods meant when they referred to Remnant as an experiment, whether that was, let's try creating a number of living beings and giving them magic, and let's see what they do. Oh, they turned against us? Yeah, let's never do that again. And so the Ever After might be a world that came after Remnant, came before, not really sure, but more than likely, the beings of the Ever After never had this magic. Therefore, they don't have any semblance of it. Anyone that was inherently created on the Ever After probably does not have a semblance, does not have aura, and because of that, the world itself wasn't created to account for semblances, to account for aura, and in particular, to account for the emotions of beings like humanity that were created to, have strong emotions, be fueled by their emotions, and also have the ability to create and destroy, the ability to choose between them. So that is really going to affect the world of Ever After. And I think the world itself is not only going to interact with the emotions of our main characters, but also the semblances. When a character tries to use their semblance, it's going to either work differently in this world or have a much different effect or larger effect than they were initially anticipating. We already know that simply emotions can change the weather, but semblances are often awakened through an emotional time for that individual. That is how they discover their inherent power. We saw that with Ren, an outcry of the soul, and that is what awakens a semblance. So if something like that happens in the Ever After, well, a semblance might have more far-reaching effects. And we already know that our characters' semblances are going to work while they are in the Ever After. We saw this in the trailer. There was just a brief, like pretty much single frame of Neo starting to activate her semblance. And we know that she is in the Ever After as well. She's very angry, and it looks like the weather is already responding to that behind her, so her semblance may have a larger effect, and that's why the scene was cut right there. But since we do see the pink of her semblance in the corner of the screen, we know that she is able to activate it. So semblances do work in the Ever After. I had theorized previously that semblances might not work in this other world because semblances and dust being the remnants of the magic of first humanity, and dust not working outside of Remnant's atmosphere, you know, semblances may not work either. But with semblances being an inherent power now present within humans and Faunus, it would make sense that it would work here. And if this world does have some magic within it, just interacting in a different way than it would on Remnant, then it might interact with the semblance of magic present within Team RWBY, Jean, and Neo. And if it does react to semblances, then Neo is going to be a terrifying person in the Ever After. If Team RWBY and Jean can't actually come to terms with Neo, negotiate with her, and try to calm her down, her semblance of overactive imagination is going to get out of control. Her semblance normally is able to create physical illusions, but when those illusions are struck or when there's any force applied to them, they shatter. If they can be a little bit stronger and not shatter after a single hit, if not even just appearing as real until Neo decides to take them down, then Neo is going to be incredibly powerful and may even be one of the main threats, at least for the beginning parts of the volume. I think there's going to be other things going on in the world of the Ever After that Team RWBY and everyone are going to need to deal with, but Neo is one of those things at the very beginning. With her anger for being betrayed by Cinder, for not being able to kill RWBY, and upon seeing RWBY again, Neo is going to do everything she can to get revenge for losing the one thing she cared about, that being Roman Torchwick. It's possible that if her semblance is able to start making things real, create real illusions even more so than before, we might see Roman Torchwick appear in Volume 9, potentially just as an illusion, and fight alongside Neo, which would be amazing to see, but that's just an aside and a hope and dream for right now. What's most important is that Neo and her semblance, depending on how it interacts with this world, if the world itself has magic and the semblances of our characters can affect the world itself because of that magic, then Neo could create more than just illusions. She could create real things in that world that become permanent. And if that's the case, then her rage might permanently distort this world, or at least portions of it. She might become a threat to the Ever After as a whole, simply because of the way her semblance works. Now, other characters also have very powerful semblances. Weiss and her summoning is a perfect example. She could create her summons, and they would stay real. She could create multiple of them at the same time, for example. RWBY and her ability to literally demolecularize things, break things down to their molecular structure, and move at insane speeds, negating the effect of gravity, like, just think of how that could affect the overall world should the world respond to that semblance. So overall, there's just a lot of terrifying possibilities with RWBY, Jean, and Neo being able to have an effect on the world around them simply by having a change in emotion. And if that's possible, then what else could be possible simply because they are people of Remnant? Because again, I highly doubt that that is something inherent to all living beings that are in the Ever After. I don't think if Little got sad and threw a temper tantrum that the weather would then change. I think it might be something just inherent to the humans on the Ever After, but, you know, I think it might be something specifically because of the people from Remnant, the way that they were created, that they were given magic initially, and a semblance of that still remains. And it might interact with the world of Ever After in strange ways that may be much more catastrophic than any of them realize. Because just think about it. If Team RWBY used their semblances, unaware of the effect that they could have on the world around them, and things just happened, if they don't understand what it is that they are capable of soon enough, it could be very catastrophic to the world itself, to any of the living creatures there, and, like, I'm really curious to see what the kind of laws of the Ever After are, and if there is any further interaction of our characters with the world itself, beyond just, you know, the emotion of one of the characters affecting the weather in that location. But I just have a feeling there is going to be something else, because we were never shown any of our characters using their semblances or in combat in any way, shape, or form in that little teaser that we saw. I think that there is going to be a lot more to the Ever After than we've been shown thus far, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How do you think this world is going to function in and of itself? Do you think that there is going to be some interaction between the semblances of our characters and the world itself? That there is magic present within the world, but not in the living things? At least not in the same way that the people of Remnant were created to have, the semblance that remains within them. The more I think about the possibilities off of just this brief little teaser that we were shown, the more excited I am getting for Volume 9 and what we are going to see, what we're going to learn about our characters, and learn about the universe of RWBY overall, now that we've started to explore a second world outside of Remnant. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, got you thinking a bit more about what to expect in Volume 9, and if you did, make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at Phoenix Knight 7, and I'll see you guys in the next video.